This podcast is not intended to provide any investment advice. The opinions expressed here by either the hosts or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of PSA, Collectors Holdings, or any of their affiliates. Any discussion of collectible values in the past or present is not a guarantee of future performance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the PSA Pod for 2022, the final episode of Season 1, as we can say. Ryan Green, Jack Archer, Steve Sloan, Chris McGill. Got a full house. We got so much to talk about. We're going to get it all out there. End of 2022. Share some of our favorites from 2022, some of the things we're really looking for in the hobby for 2023. But, you know, before that, we just had our first of back-to-back holiday weekends. Do we have any good Christmas rips?
My lovely wife surprised me with a box of 2022 Topps Chrome Sapphire. Only 2 hits per box. Mine happened to have 3 for whatever reason, and one of those hits was a gold refractor Mike Trout. It was a very, very nice Christmas for me.
Friend of the company.
Love to see it.
That's a great card.
I went with a little Topps holiday just for the kids as stocking stuffers. We didn't pull anything crazy, but it was fun to rip them with my daughters who were excited to chase the variants, the candy canes, the lights around the neck. We got a Seiya Suzuki with the sleeve, which was kind of cool. So nothing too super valuable, but it's more about the memories, right?
Yep. I ripped a box of Heritage High Number with my girlfriend on Sunday, her first time ever ripping packs with me. And as soon as we were done, first thing she said was, let's open some more. So she really enjoyed it. She did tell me, and this made my heart flutter a little bit. She said, next time, can we do football cards? Because I at least know who most of those guys are. She loves football. So I'm like, well, I collect baseball and football, so that's perfect.
Nice.
So got to find a good football box to rip together.
I didn't have a rip at all, but my brother who was visiting, Nick, did open one of those 1-pack 2021 Prism football boxes. I believe it's an exclusive international release. T-Mall. The red-yellow parallel is the exclusive, but literally nothing good came out of that box whatsoever. It was a total dud.
Chris, you know what's much better than pulling a gold refractor Mike Trout? Looking at your PC and just seeing nothing but Prism Black 1-of-1s.
I would agree with you there, but on Christmas Day, I'll take the Trout.
Well, we also had a little office rip on Friday. That was fun.
That was too much fun. We had to take a break in the middle. We were ripping so much product. Thank you, Panini, for a great pre-holiday rip session. Had some fun, World Cup soccer, a little classics football, which is a totally new product to me, which I absolutely love now. A hidden gem, I would call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blast. We did a hit draft for everybody in the office. It was so much fun. I also think it's important to note that because this is the New Year episode, you can't see us, but we're all wearing tuxedos right now. We have champagne glasses. It's very elegant in the office, very sophisticated. So just imagine us in that scenario while you're listening to the rest of the show.
And we're going to ring in the new year by talking the hobby. And we're going to break this show into 2 parts. And we want to start with 2022. Talk about some of our favorite things from the hobby, in a few different categories. And where we want to start is, as we're talking about ripping products, what was our favorite products to rip and to see hit the market in 2022? There's so much to choose from. And it was a different year with some 2021 products leaking into being released in 2022. But there's a lot out there. So, Jack, let's start with you. 2022, what was your favorite product to hit the market?
I'm going with 2022 or 2021 Prism basketball. And not just because of the loaded rookie class, not just because it's an incredible product year after year, but because of the 75th anniversary parallel. The red cracked ice to 75 in hobby boxes with the little diamond logo is just so cool. And on top of that, in retail products, they had like the blue Prism with the same NBA 75th logo throughout. I think these cards are really, really stunning. And I think long term, especially the one that's numbered to 75, it's going to be a parallel that is extremely coveted. So I love this set, and I loved what they did with the 75th anniversary.
I think that's going to stand up over time. I grabbed a Kuminga rookie with the blue 75 and a great color match with the Warriors, and just something about the inclusion of that logo within the design just really hits. So agree. That's a great choice there, Jack.
It made retail products a lot more exciting for me too. So if I stop by Target and they happen to have blasters or whatever. I'm not that interested in like the red, white, and blue parallel, but I am interested in the blue 75th,
Yeah.
and they sneak those in there. So it just makes all of those retail products just a little bit more exciting.
Steve, what about you?
I had a couple honorable mentions, if I might. One is 2022 Topps Chrome Sapphire Star Wars, which for me gave me some serious FOMO. I have the 1977 Topps Luke Skywalker #1 and a PSA 8, and I really want to add the Sapphire Edition #1 to my collection. I don't have it yet, so that was an honorable mention. Another one was the one I just mentioned, the Panini Classics football with the Optichrome finish. The design really calls back to the early 90s football, which for me growing up as a kid always will have a special place in my heart. So I was really blown away by the product. I had no really understanding what classics was, but ripping a box, so, you get at least the hobby version. I think it's 6 cards in a pack. Hit a nice Kenny Pickett, which was pretty cool. But I'm going to go overall with, I think anyone who listens to this knows I'm kind of a select homer. I'm going to go with 2021 Panini Select Football. I think just for a couple reasons. One, the design. I love the field level design with the kind of the cresting waves on the bottom and the top. I think the Trevor Lawrence card in particular is really going to stand up over time as an all-time card. Of course, Prism will always be king, but for me, there's just something about the silver version of that and PSA 10 that just really hits for me. The gem rate's pretty decent too at 48% with PSA thus far, which is above Prism Football, for example, 41%. So you have slightly better odds of getting your gems out of that product. And I just happen to really love just the design overall, especially on the field level for select football.
Chris, what'd you have?
Well, I am a huge homer for Chronicles. And for the year 2022 calendar year, my favorite product release was 2021-22 Chronicles Basketball, which came out in September. And I'll give you just the 3 bullet points for why I love this product. The first one is that it's got a lot of great retired brands in it. So I love Threads, Gala, lots of these products that Panini experimented with and then retired. They don't actually retire for good. A lot of them retire into Chronicles. So you're almost getting a curated best of the best from somewhere between a dozen to 15 different products. I'm just kind of spitballing my guess there, but I think that's around the number. The second reason is I believe this is a totally unique Panini concept, and Panini does a lot of great work building on previous trends and innovations that have been in the hobby prior to Panini acquiring the licenses. But this one, I believe, is a totally unique Panini innovation, which is this concept of a sort of graveyard product, if I may put it that way, where these even the products that ultimately don't make it to another standalone release year after year, they get retired into Chronicles. And for those of us who love those products, they get to live on even if the market as a whole didn't love them, which I think is really neat. And then the final reason is just there's numbered rookies everywhere and numbered all-time greats everywhere. If you open a Chronicles box, you're going to get a LeBron numbered card, or you're going to get the rookie, the hot rookies from that class. You're going to get some of them on low numbered cards from really well designed but retired products. So Chronicles is what I say for 2022.
I love the thought that went into that. Very detailed. I'm a big Chronicles guy too, so I'm with you on that. Mine, I'm sticking with Panini. For me, this was the year I finally came around on Contenders Optic, especially for football. In the past, I've been a very traditional, because I collected so hard in the late 90s, early 2000s. When it comes to Contenders, I always equate it with the paper product and that being kind of like the traditional signature auto rookie for players. But this year's Contenders design, I thought just was so much better on Chrome with the optic treatment. It really just finally won me over this year. But, also it was a product that inspired me a little bit because I actually got to see an incredibly hot box of it get ripped in person. And I feel like that makes an impact with you when you see, even if it's not yourself pulling it, you see someone open a box like the one that we watched Steve open in this very same room. That was just a cool moment, right? For just taking that product in.
Gold Tom Brady.
Oh my goodness.
You just can't beat it.
That ended up a PSA 10.
Yeah, no, it's a tough set to gem too.
Yeah.
To 25% overall rate, which shows how lucky you got with that box. Not only with the rip, but with the grading on it. But I agree with you. One card I had no appreciation for before that was the red, white, and blue to 13. Kind of has that Mojo refractor design to it. In hand, That Mahomes card was just gorgeous with the red and white and blue coloring on the Chiefs jersey with the Mojo refractor design to it. Limited to 13 copies. Just an awesome card overall. It's definitely fun to rip cards that you don't have an appreciation for, get them in hand, and it just changes everything moving forward.
And we always talk about that. You can be inspired by seeing cards the first time. Like seeing that card and inspired me to say, well, Justin Fields has a out of 13 rookie ticket in this same design to go find one. But yeah, that product really hit home with me. And I should make an honorable mention, kind of like you did. I was a big fan of the 2021 Photogenics basketball that we opened last week. It's essentially Panini's version of Top Stadium Club done with basketball as an online exclusive last year. And those cards really, really hit in hand.
There's no better sport than basketball for that high quality photography.
Exactly.
And they had great callbacks. They have like the famous Rodman diving out of bounds where he's completely horizontal to the ground, like cool imagery that brings you back to the 90s. Dominique Wilkins dunks. It's just like that to me was a really surprising product as well. Great honorable mention for sure.
I wish it used the chromium technology for that one. That's my only complaint, but I was so impressed with that product. That the paper stock is really thick. The photography, as you mentioned, is fantastic. I think it definitely has some legs. So I'm excited to see that product evolve over time. One quick note on Contenders Optic basketball. This year they introduced Black Pandora, which has traditionally been a football only product. Black Pandora Contenders Optic basketball. It's not numbered, unfortunately, but it is roughly like a case hit. They seem pretty rare so far. And wow, does that card just look incredible.
Got my first Black Pandora this year, and that thing moves in the light unlike any other parallel. So
I saw a Black Pandora Trevor Lawrence with like the Jaguars behind him and the black background. It looks so great with the teal uniform, like everything about it. It's a piece of art.
Well, let's shift from products and talk about the athletes in particular, narrow it down a little bit. So we're looking back on 2022 as a whole from a hobby perspective. You know, whose year was it? When you look back at 2022, not only for new products, but just for collecting and the hobby in general, Jack, start us off. Which athlete do you think about as 2022 being quote unquote their year?
I'll keep this one quick. It's Steph Curry. Finals MVP. He put an exclamation point on his career so far, and he's showing that like he's not out of gas, like not even close. He's just slowly moving his way up the all-time list, and I just think what he's doing is special. How likable he is special. What he brings to the game, how he changed the game. There's just so much to like about him. And I think 2022, Steph Curry just took his like hobby appeal to an even higher level, and I didn't think that was possible.
I like that as a Warriors fan. Not who I picked. I went onto the diamond, and I really wanted to do Shohei because I think this year it really clicked for a lot of people that he's a generational talent. Even following up his 2021 MVP season, just incredible performance on the diamond again this year. But Shohei is not my pick. Your only pick for baseball has to be Aaron Judge because of what he achieved this year, from his MVP status, but also the breaking of a historic record for the New York Yankees as a franchise with 62 home runs. I just think it has to be Judge. We'll look back at 2022 as a year of 62 home runs. Him inking a long-term contract that's going to keep him in New York at least through the end of this decade is another just addition to his status as an all-timer. And from the hobby's perspective, my card of the year is going to be his 2013 Bowman Chrome draft picks and prospects gold refractor to 50. If you can get that in a PSA 10 auto 10, there one sold earlier this year in July for 20 grand, which to me feels like a steal at this point, given the fact that how he ended the season and the fact that he's staying with the Yankees.
Shohei Ohtani, oddly enough, as we highlighted on social this week on the PSA channels, the most submitted baseball athlete to PSA in 2022. So not only did he further cement himself as a generational talent, but collectors have just continued and continued and continued to take notice of it.
Can you imagine if you wrote out that rough 2018, 2019, even 2020 period until he really clicked in 2021?
Yeah.
You're just smiling ear to ear. I only have one Shohei card, which is my biggest regret in life, I think, at this point. So much opportunity to acquire him at relatively reasonable prices early.
Chris, what about you?
Well, as a basketball aficionado, or at least I like to think of myself as one, Jack took my honorable mention, which was Steph Curry. And I'll add to it, I agree with everything Jack said, and I'll add that he was also the All-Star Game MVP. He made 16 3-pointers in the All-Star Game, which was obviously a record. And All-Star Game MVP seems to be a pretty good predictor of which player is really on top of their game in that particular season. My number one vote was same as Steve. And I agree with everything Steve laid out. And I think it's noteworthy that even as a collector who's more focused on basketball and football by far, I couldn't avoid seeing Aaron Judge mania everywhere. Every corner of the hobby and every corner of sports coverage that I consume was focused on Judge and the historic chase for 62. And it's sort of happening in parallel with Pujols' hunt for 700. Just the home run mania to end this year's baseball season was impressive. And I'll just add one piece of data to this. So Card Ladder's Aaron Judge index saw a 183% net increase over the 1-year period that ended in Judge's, at the very peak of Judge's mania in September there. That's the largest breakout season or breakout year-long period we've ever tracked. Bigger than Mahomes' breakout MVP season, bigger than Luka's breakout second season, bigger than Josh Allen's breakout fourth season, and bigger than Morant's breakout season last year as well. Now, that's measured relative. So Aaron Judge's increase was relative to the baseball index. Some of these guys like Allen literally saw his cards increase by 400%, but the football index increased by like 250% over that same span. So Aaron Judge, for me, he is the hobby breakout star, the hobby star of the year.
Well, I'm going to go to the gridiron. Football cards need some love too. I'm going with Joe Burrow, and I'm taking this mostly back to the first 2 months of 2022, because when he went on that magical run in January through the playoffs into the Super Bowl, almost winning the Super Bowl as the AP Comeback Player of the Year in 2021, the 2021 season, it was just a nice reminder of, what one really hot month on the biggest stage can do for a player within the hobby and with collectors. Because I was still relatively new working at PSA and being, around just this business every day at that point. And just to see it up close and see how many Burrow cards suddenly started coming in over the course of 2 months, it was really something. And then he followed it up. He had a slow start to the year, but, as at the time of this recording, as we're heading into the final 2 weeks of the regular season, he's going to have more passing yards, more touchdown passes than he did last year. His QBR continues to go up year over year. I mean, the guy's playing at an MVP level, and if Patrick Mahomes didn't exist, he probably would be the MVP this year. So I think it's really cool to just see what Burrow continues to do. And he's starting for me to have that feeling of a player who, when I'm watching him play in a game, if I'm like a fan of the other team, like I'm terrified of what he's about to do to us. Like he just kind of has that swagger to him, and he's got the personality to carry over and really be a star in the hobby for a long time, I think.
Set up too because of his competition in the AFC. We talked about it a little bit last week, but if Burrow and Herbert meet in the first round of this playoffs, I'm going to be so happy.
Give it to me.
Yeah, it's going to be the best football viewing I think we can get for our money this year, just seeing those two as hobby darlings 2020 class going up against each other. And the outcome of the winner will just get that much more status coming out of it, which is going to be great for that guy.
Unfortunately, the Chargers' run defense is so poor that just feels like a huge Joe Mixon game, and that's about it.
Oh, no.
You're already preparing yourself for it a little bit mentally.
I suppose I am, yeah.
Well, this. We're gonna finish 2022 with this. We're all collectors in this room. Steve's sitting in front of a pile of cards as we speak. So we all have our own, favorites from 2022 for our personal collections. So let's talk about what was your best hobby pickup, or your favorite hobby memory of 2022 as a collector. Jack, start us off.
I picked up a 1985 Nike promo, Michael Jordan, in a PSA 10 grade. It's a very incredibly difficult PSA 10 card to get. I got it in trade at the National. It was an incredible memory for me. It's a card I'll treasure forever. It's a card that really takes like my interest in design and advertising and, fashion and clothing. A lot of stuff I worked on before coming here to PSA with an iconic sports card figure, an iconic athlete, an iconic card. It looks great in the oversized slab. Everything about it to me just feels perfect. I'm so happy I own this card. It was amazing. I remember like literally like I I like couldn't stop smiling for probably like 3 days after I acquired that one. It's on display at my house. I love that card. It's incredible.
I love that.
It's an iconic card.
You made a great trade for it too.
Yeah, got out of some Herbert cards and still own a bunch of Justin Herbert cards, but made it happen, and I'm just so happy that deal went through.
It's awesome. Steve?
So I don't have a single card or a single memory. It was more of a process and experience of building a team set for the Golden State Warriors after winning the championship with 2021-22 Donruss Optic basketball. I wanted a way to celebrate the championship, and it seemed like a really fun way to kind of just get back to some of my roots as a collector, to build starting with orange to 199, moving to red 99, blue to 59, the entire runs of the Warriors players from the checklist. And so, I got Steph, I got Clay, I got Wiggins, I got Draymond, I got a couple rookies in Moody and Kuminga. It was just a really fun process, setting up searches on eBay, finding the cards, determining if I want to buy them. So I ended up finishing it. I'm really happy with the results. And now it's time to, even though I said I wasn't going to do it, I'm going to grade them and see if I can level up and get all in 10. Right now they're all raw, which to me I'm totally satisfied with. But for the next challenge, for the next step in the process, I am going to try to see if I can get those parallel runs in 10s.
Love it. Chris?
Yeah. So for me, the most memorable moment as a collector has a few parts to it as well. Sort of a process like Steve's. So I had the privilege of seeing the Golden State Warriors play in the first round of the playoffs, game 3, which happened to be in Denver. And even though Steph Curry didn't start, Jordan Poole was starting. And in fact, I even got into a small war of words with a visiting Golden State Warriors fan who was taunting us. And I when Poole was shooting free throws there at the end, I said, there's Jordan Poole. Steph Curry's backing him up now. Just to get something off of my chest. And then Mike Dunleavy and several people who work on the Warriors staff were sitting there, and they all just turned and stared at me, and I felt very dumb. So, but it was a memorable experience. And then it stuck with me. It was really special to watch that team play. And then they kept pushing further in the playoffs. And then I saw on Instagram in raw condition, Curry's 2017 Prism Black Disco, 1 of 1, come up for sale. And it had a comp from a few years ago, so I was able to triangulate a price pretty easily. And I negotiated with the guy. We came to a price, and then it just so happened he was in New York. And we were going to be in New York to support a Bleecker Trade Night event at the Bleecker Card Shop there in New York. So we just arranged to meet. And I think we met in between games 2 and 3 of the finals. So it actually wasn't looking good for the Warriors. And I think the seller was feeling good, and maybe I was, I was like, oh man, did I just overpay and now they're going to lose? But nonetheless, did the deal, got the card, had faith. I did have faith in the Warriors to win that series, and sure enough, they did. And then the final leg of this story, and by the way, this is the first Steph Curry card added to the collection, so it really took this experience of seeing them and then following them to build the connection to want to add a Curry card to the collection. And then at the National in Atlantic City, we graded the card. Christina and I graded the card with PSA, did a 1-day turnaround on it, or an end of show turnaround, I can't remember. But we graded it. It got a PSA 10, and it is the only Prism Black base set Steph Curry to grade PSA 10. So it was just a great ending to a fun story and a fun ride, and that card is now like a really treasured part of our collection.
So Nat Turner, Collector CEO, chose that card without even knowing that you submitted it for his top 100 recap after the National, which I thought was great too.
The common thread here too, which I'm loving, is that all of our highlights of the year from adding something to our collection has a really cool story to it and has a process to it. Mine's the same. I was building a 2001 SP Authentic football set for almost 2 years. An incredibly difficult set to build. If you know much about it, there's a million rookies. And I saved the toughest one for last, which was the Michael Vick rookie patch autograph out of 250. The very first RPA card ever made, which I'm a big fan of firsts. Not only did I find this card, but I found it a week before the National. So my national budget got blown before I even got there, which was the only downer here. But had a really sick patch with the center of the Falcons sleeve logo. Graded a PSA 8 with a 9 auto. Really tough condition set, but that completed it. And it just kind of was a nice reminder of how fulfilling just set collecting and building really can be. So
From a great era of sports cards too.
my favorite.
yeah.
So looking for the next set to dive into from that era. And as an honorable mention, favorite memory of the year, I do think we have to include, I think it was pretty cool for PSA to be able to surprise and gift Mike Trout with the custom box for his Trout family collection, PSA pedigreed collection of his own cards. And it was just a really cool moment because here's a guy who's the best player in the game, has been for almost a decade. And it was genuine surprise when he saw it and he unveiled it. That's just a cool moment where the hobby ties in with one of the best players of a generation that you really couldn't recreate if you tried.
Ryan, does Mike Trout have any concept of the fact that he has a trading card worth $5-6 million, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe more? It's tough to figure, but does he have any concept?
He saw the superfractor after it was crossed over to PSA. He knows it's out there.
And what does he have any desire to own it? What does he think about it?
I know we're gonna, I think down the line he wants to see it in person. I know that.
I'm sure whoever owns it would be very happy to sell it to Mike Trout.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I'll ever get used to seeing Mike Trout walk down the halls of PSA, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, so that puts a bow on 2022. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and along these same lines, we're going to take a look ahead to 2023. What's ahead in the hobby, what we're looking forward to. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, Steve here from the PSA Pod. I don't know about you, but for me, the hobby is my escape from the real world. I want my collecting experience to be fun, simple, and easy. But when it comes to selling cards, whether to get rid of dupes or to free up cash for a new purchase, there are just a lot of hoops to jump through. I've got to take the perfect photo of the card, create the listing, wait for payment, package up the shipment, go to the post office, and then pray that the card doesn't get lost. Add it all up, and it's just not how I want to be spending my time. That's why it's exciting for me that the official vault of PSA will soon be connected to the new Golden Buy Now marketplace. With this completely connected platform, all the headaches of selling cards are solved. So I'm vaulting my PSA submissions now to be ready to jump on trending athletes and get cash fast for my cards, all with a single click. And did I mention that the new Golden Buy Now marketplace is for all types of cards and values, not just premium cards? It's truly a marketplace for collectors by collectors. So try the Collector's Vault in your next PSA submission to be ready for when the Golden Buy Now marketplace connects to the official vault of PSA. Visit collectors.com/vault for more information.
All right. So we talked 2022. We're all getting ready to turn the calendar into 2023. So let's start here where we started with 2022. Products we're looking forward to the most in this upcoming year. Jack, kick us off.
I'm looking forward to see what Zero Cool does next. It's the non-sports arm of Fanatics' new trading card company led by Topps. I thought they disrupted things in a pretty interesting way this year with their initial releases, how they actually released the product, how transparent they were with the odds, the serial numbering, everything that they were doing. They're just thinking about trading cards in a different way, and they're willing to take chances and break the rules. So I'm just incredibly excited to see what they do in 2023, especially with Dune, which is a book I dearly love and a movie series that I am incredibly excited about. They have a product for that coming out, Stranger Things, and I'm sure quite a bit more. So Zero Cool is my answer.
The Stranger Things stuff has me really excited. Their first small release in that run looked really cool. So I'm definitely curious to see what other franchises they're going to line up with for some card products. Steve, what do you got?
I'm going to pick a product that I think everyone listening to this podcast, if they're a PSA customer, will have the opportunity to acquire. And that is an image of your graded card in 2023 from PSA, which is a huge undertaking that the operations is now ready to roll out. I think it should be music to the ears of all collectors. And this is, a huge undertaking. 50,000 cards a day, approximately graded by PSA. Now, every single one of those having an image pop up, insert verification for use for fraud detection, as an example. So you can verify it online at psacard.com/cert. You could also use it for the marketplace or trading. I mean, the idea that you'd have an image of the card before you actually have the card in hand is quite powerful from a speed to market perspective of just an inspection of the card and how it looks in the PSA holder. So I hats off to the ops team for the investment in the machinery necessary to image 50,000 cards a day. It also dovetails nicely into another enhancement from PSA that I heard from a little bird is coming, which is push notifications inside the PSA app as to your order status. So instead of sitting on the website and hitting refresh incessantly, you can just wait for a push notification from your app to know when your order has moved from one stage to the next inside the process. And then even beyond that, I heard something about maybe a virtual grade reveal. Like, I'm team no look till I die, but I'm at least going to try that out once to see what a virtual grade reveal would look like inside the app. So hats off to the product and tech and operations teams at PSA for delivering early in 2023 some really nice steps forward for the collector.
Already some nice looks at what's to come in the new look cert verification app, which is available now. If you haven't updated your PSA app, definitely go do that. Go take a look in the App Store. Really, really impressive. And things are just going to continue to look cooler on your screen with your PSA orders as you move forward. So, Chris, what do you got? What are you looking forward to in 2023?
Well, that is massive. News has been broken here that's going to save me hours, maybe days in the year 2023, because as an example, when I was at the National this year, that Curry wasn't the only card I graded. I dropped off a few dozen others to get graded as well of a lower value, and they all came back, and then I scanned them in, and that takes hours, and it's fun at first, then it becomes laborious. So having all the PSA scans of every card, even my lower dollar ones, is just so, it puts me at ease. I literally felt a little bit of stress come off my shoulders knowing I'm not gonna have to scan anything in 2023. All right, so product wise for me, I'm overdue for Prism football and basketball for this year's rookie classes to come out. Let's see those Prism Black 1-of-1s of Paolo Banchero and Brock Purdy. Let's see them. I'm dying to see some of the stuff get pulled. So even though they're rookie classes from 2022, let's see those products come out early in 2023.
I like that. Brock Purdy, the hobby darling.
Chris, let me ask, did you think in any scenario Panini would skip a year and just combine the two classes into one?
It's a great question. I think that they're not going to, because they've only got these licenses for a few more years. So I think they're going to utilize them for as long as they can. And I just hope, though, that there's a way. Maybe they cut out some of the smaller products to help get us back on track. That might be a win-win scenario, so that we can get some of the bigger flagship products back on a more realistic schedule.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Topps does with the baseball product line in 2023. I think Fanatics had some pretty interesting innovations with new products in 2022, the way certain products were released. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they have up their sleeves. I'm not a massive fan of the overall design, but there's one design nod that I really love for 2023 Topps Baseball Series 1, the flagship, which is they put the headshots in the lower third or the lower left-hand corner of the card. And it wasn't until this year that I realized they do that every 20 years intentionally. So 1983 Topps had the headshots in the corner, 2003 Topps had it, and now 2023 Topps has it. So I think that's actually a really cool nod to the history of baseball cards with a more modern design. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Topps does this year with some of not only the flagship products, but their new ones. So we're going to move on now. We talked about 2022. Whose year was it in the hobby? So let's, put the time machine to work here. We're going forward to this same week at the end of 2023. We're looking back at 2023 as a whole, determining whose year was it in the hobby. Let's make a prediction right here. We've got it on the record. Who we putting out there? Jack, start us off.
I feel like it's going to be one of the young QBs if they win the Super Bowl, whether that's Josh Allen, whether that's Patrick Mahomes, whether that's Joe Burrow, whether that's Brock Purdy, whoever it might be. I feel like is going to have just like a huge moment in the hobby and really take that next step, especially if Mahomes gets his second. I think that will be really big. The same would apply to the NBA Finals. If Luka wins it, John Morant, if Giannis takes another, if Tatum snags it, Someone like that, I think, is going to also reach the next level of hobby stardom, and people will just covet their cards at an entirely new level. It's pretty obvious, but that's what's going to happen.
If we define hottest by like the sheer volume of transactions in the marketplace, submissions to PSA, then I know the answer. And I'm right. So we can just cut it now and put it into the year end for 2023. It's so easy and obvious. And
We're going to flash back to this
Yeah.
a year from now. So you better actually be right.
I will, because it's Charizard, obviously. I mean, I can predict that he will remain healthy in all of 2023. He will have no torn ACL, no injuries in sight. All right. And I can predict that because he's a staple of one of the biggest franchises in the world, a growing customer base, and a huge, huge name inside the PSA just world of submitting to us. He claimed 5 of the top 10 spots for Pokemon subjects by all the varieties that there are. They're the base, holo, V, GX, full art, VMAX. It's Charizard. Top to bottom, it's all about that in the Pokemon universe. So I know he won't go into a slump. He's not going to be traded, all that stuff. So I'm sorry, guys, I had to cheat on this one, but it's obviously Charizard for 2023.
It's the safest bet in cardboard.
It is. And I actually would challenge sports collectors to at least own one Charizard card. I mean, it's a crossover, of course. If you didn't grow up with Pokemon, you may not have interest in it, but I'm even going to grab one just because I know that it's something that's at this point just completely iconic to the world of trading card collecting.
There's a lot of buzz surrounding Squirrel right now. He might take the top spot.
He's
you never
coming
know.
for it, huh?
Scouts are saying all the right things. I saw that new Zach Lowe piece.
Steve made a great point, though. He won't catch him due to injury. It's like, that's one of a line I heard about a year ago that just sticks with me. Charizard can't tear an ACL.
Exactly. I need that on a t-shirt.
Chris, that's going to be tough to top.
There's no topping that, so I'm just going to bracket off my answer to being sports only because Charizard is definitely the right answer otherwise. But if we limit it to sports, I think on a certain level this is unpredictable simply because if something historic and unpredictable happens, like Aaron Judge hitting 62 home runs, in preparation for the show I was reading that Aaron Judge had said he was going to hit 50 and people thought that was bold and perhaps overambitious. Well, he did 62. He broke the record. So it was unpredictable and it was important and it was historic. When something like that happens, that's going to be it. And I think part of the mechanism at work is precisely because nobody saw it coming, that there's an element of people, scrambling to get to not miss out on it, to be a part of it. But if we don't have something like that, then I think it's going to be Victor Wembanyama. But that assumes that we'll get at least some of the flagship basketball products to release in the calendar year 2023.
It's going to light the hobby on fire, though.
Yeah. We just need the cards. Ryan is we need the Prism, man. I'm just going to put it out there. We need the Prism before year end 2023.
Mine is kind of in the same line of what Jack said about young quarterbacks, and I'm gonna just put my name behind one of them, and I'm gonna say Trevor Lawrence. What we're watching here at the end of the 2022 season with him really taking control of things in Jacksonville, has good coaching. They've got a really good, up and coming young roster, and he's going to add a legitimate number one receiver in Calvin Ridley next year when he comes off suspension. Like, just everything there is in place for them to dominate that division for at least the next 2 to 3 years. I think when you're looking in the line of like quarterbacks that are king from each class, I mean, and I say this as a Fields collector, I have a hard time seeing it laid out better for anyone other than, better than it is for Trevor Lawrence. And so that's not only banking on what he might do in the playoffs this year, but this is also looking forward to next season.
It's hard to disagree. I mean, he certainly separated himself from the class. With Fields as a very close second, I guess I shouldn't say completely separated himself, but
he's winning.
Just from in terms of his performance, his cards are awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many great options available for Lawrence cards. You're looking, even if you went to the Silver Prism, which is a great choice. I mean, I think the pop's in the low 40s, somewhere around there. So it's a couple grand card at this point, which surprised me when I looked that up. But I guess the low pop, it's 21 Prism is a tough grade too.
Yes.
And we talked about the gem rates on that being pretty low. So I like that choice. good
We'll s-
combination
we'll
of
see. Let's hope-
of the
let's hope
cards
I-
and the player.
Let's hope I don't sound really dumb when we come to this week of 2023. I think it would take something crazy though for him to have fallen flat.
Probably cutting his hair. That's probably.
Marketability takes a big dip. Well, we're going to end 2023 just like we ended 2022, talking about it from our personal collecting perspectives. Everyone's got to fill in the blank here. Jack, we're going to start with you. My number one collecting goal in the year 2023 is.
I guess I'm going to cheat because I have two.
That's fine.
One is I want to consolidate and advance some of my Jason Tatum collection. I have some really nice Tatum cards I'm really proud of. I also have a handful of mid-tier cards, which I'm also very proud of, like an Optic Hollow PSA 10, some Prism Silvers, that I'm hoping to consolidate into something a little bit bigger. I have my eye on like the purple Prism PSA 10 out of 75. Lost it at auction probably about a year ago. Still haunts me. So I'm looking to add one more nice Jason Tatum card to my collection. And the other thing is I really, really want to add a Mike Trout 2011 Topps Update Diamond Anniversary or Cognac Anniversary PSA 10 to my collection. Stunning, beautiful, iconic card. And I just feel like I need to own one really nice Mike Trout rookie card. And you can't get much better than that.
What you got,
Good one.
Steve?
2022 was a bit of a hot mess for me. I was just all over the place between Loop and the National and just whatnot and local card shops, Card Pavilion, MPV Sports. I just was not focused at all. I was all over the place. So my goal for 2023 is to use the tools available to me to focus on my collecting pursuits. So whether that's using my collection part of the website to really track my prices and monitor pops, build sets through the registry. I just need to use the tools that are available to me because otherwise I'm like a kid in a candy store. Like I'm just all over the place. And I think that probably happens to a lot of people out there because there's so many great products. There's so many great athletes and subjects to collect. It's easy to get distracted and also not be super responsible financially.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to use tools at my disposal to be a better collector in 2023 by just focusing, frankly.
It's good advice, honestly. It is easy to. I do the same thing, kid in a candy store. I like the way you put that, but I think collecting, it can be rewarding in a lot of different ways, but especially when you focus it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of the shiny stuff. It's like catches your eye, and the next shiny thing that catches my eye, I'm usually trying to get after it. So another part of that, just to add a wrinkle, would be to kind of use some of my 2022 missteps to fund my 2023 purchases, meaning like sell off some of the stuff that maybe in retrospect wasn't the right pursuit as a focus collector in order to fund and be self-funding for 2023.
I like that. Chris, what about you?
Well, that's good advice to focus, but perhaps I'm the cautionary tale of what happens if you overly focus or hyper focus and become obsessed with one thing to the exclusion of all others. But that's actually what my goal is to continue an obsession. So it took about little over 2 years, but I tracked down all 5 of the base set Prism Black Finite 1 of 1 Christian McCaffreys, including the rookie, which was the most recent one that I got. So every Prism Black 1 of 1 McCaffrey that's been released from the base set, I now have, which is great, but it's also anxiety inducing because there is going to be a 2022 Prism football product and it's going to have a CMAC in it. And hopefully it will depict him in his 49ers uniform. And if that's the case, then I want it even more. So that's going to be my big chase for 2023 is to hunt down that card when it comes out so I can keep the career Prism Black 1 of 1 going for CMAC. And I just hope that there's not too much competition out there for it.
Might have to buy or pay a premium if they win the Super Bowl. So
yeah, let's hope it comes out before then.
The joys of super collecting a current player. You're having stress over a card that hasn't even come out yet.
I'm stressed for you, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm also severely worried they're going to pull that trick they sometimes pull with traded players. Well, he'll be in a Panthers uniform, but it will save 49ers.
no.
Can't be having that.
I really hope
It probably will be, Jack. Honestly, it probably will be. But to the Panini folks who listen to this podcast, please, let's get that 49ers uni.
And hopefully Brock Purdy makes a checklist too.
he made Mosaic, so I got to
Okay,
imagine he
good.
will.
He's in the practice jersey for Mosaic, but I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
let's just say it. If he ends up being the next Tom Brady, they do have that in common. A lot of rookies together in their practice uniforms, right? I know I'm really putting the cart before the horse there, but
just as long as you're not in sweatpants.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of take a little bit from what you guys said, Jack, the consolidation angle of it, definitely looking to do that. Definitely looking to focus on a couple of new projects in 2023, but one is closing a lingering project, and that is for the third time completing the 1998 SP Authentic Football set. I've completed it twice and broken it up twice in the past. Long stories there, but I have the set 99.9% completed. All I'm missing is the Peyton Manning Future Watch rookie card out of 2000, and I'm looking for it in a PSA 9, which is not as easy to find, but it's attainable and it's the highest grade I'm looking for. I would have owned to this point. So
you own the Randy Moss?
I do own the Randy Moss and a PSA 9. It's arguably my favorite card ever made, Randy Moss. So I need the Manning to complete the set, and then I got to grade out the rest of the set.
So that means you have the Ryan Leaf.
I do have the Ryan Leaf, which we were talking about recently. It's like the greatest what if card ever in my collection. Like, such a cool looking card. Just the player didn't match, unfortunately.
Hey, I will give Ryan Leaf some props. He's really turned around. He's hilarious on Twitter, and he's kind of reclaimed his reputation to the most extent he could, I would say, off the field, given some of his issues.
The card at least has a good story with it too, right?
Yeah.
So focus and really finding the projects you're passionate about. It should be kind of the goal for every collector in 2023. So I think I really already can't wait to have the same conversation a year from now as we're wrapping up 2023 and heading to 2024. But no, I think we got a big year in the hobby ahead for us.
All right, just don't spend all your budget in January, okay? Spread it out a little.
My January budget got spent in December, so right. I'm good there. For Jack Archer, for Steve Sloan, for Chris McGill, I'm Ryan Green. Thank you for listening to the PSA Pod in 2022. We'll talk to you again once the calendar turns. Happy New Year. Talk to you again soon.